So yes, brilliant. Thank you ever so much, everybody who's joined us here. Just to get started, I'm going to say hi. My name's Adam Fairclough. I'm Customer Success Manager here at Elmtec. We are the authorised distribution partner for SketchUp in the UK and Ireland. And my email's there if you ever have any questions. I have actually spelled my email correctly. That's good. Brilliant. Who is Elmtec, or who are Elmtec? Elmtec, as we said, distribution partner for SketchUp in the UK. What does that mean? We manage the network of authorised resellers of SketchUp in the UK. Many of you, I'm sure, will have bought from a reseller. For those of you that haven't, and for those of you who don't know why the resellers are there, obviously SketchUp, Trimble, American company, most of their support is inside of the US, and our UK customers sometimes need some help inside the UK, inside of office opening hours. So if you've bought from a UK reseller, one of the big advantages to doing so is that you have somebody on the end of a phone at your reseller who can answer those support questions for you. Whether that's just having trouble getting started, or you've got something, an error that you're not aware of, or you just need some advice as to how to do something. You've got a human, or several humans quite often to speak to, and they have the support of us here at Elmtec as well, including myself. So yeah, resellers, buy from one of those if you don't already. We're often a little bit cheaper than the SketchUp website as well. Bonus, probably shouldn't say that, but that is the truth. If you need to find out more about us and the resellers, please visit our websites, elmtec.sketchup.co.uk, and to see the list of resellers, that's just /buy. You'll see it there on the website. So as you said, I haven't said already, today's webinar is going to be a kind of guided tour of the SketchUp ecosystem. Obviously, you're all here. You're probably all SketchUp users already. I would imagine there might be some people there that are just curious about what's going on. And hopefully today is an opportunity just to show kind of what else there is included with a SketchUp subscription beyond just SketchUp Pro. So let's get started. I'm just going to flick through these things here. And whilst I'm talking, I will throw that one up. Oh, that was the results of that, by the way. And let's just give you a little overview of kind of the current ecosystem for SketchUp. So SketchUp Pro, you're probably all familiar with the SketchUp Pro main core 3D modeler, the desktop one most of you probably using on Windows and Mac. There are a whole bunch of other products that come included with that. There's kind of two primary SketchUp professional subscriptions are available at the moment. We've got SketchUp Pro, which is for kind of professional workflows. And we have, my presentation isn't moving. And then we've got SketchUp Studio, which is for more advanced workflows. This has got a few extra components we'll talk about also, and new for this year because it's not on this graphic. We've also got the Revit importer, which we will talk about today. And so today's webinar will go through some of these components of SketchUp, things you already have access to. I'm going to introduce a few things that you may not be aware of, introduce some of the new features of SketchUp 2023 as well. So what we know about SketchUp is SketchUp is used across various design stages, and it's their accelerating design process, the design process from concept through to design, modeling, stakeholder collaboration, construction, documentation, and more. Depending on the industry that you work in, you may be only operating within one of these phases, or you may be operating across all of those phases. But what we want to show you today is actually perhaps how you can operate across more stages, or perhaps collaborate better with other people who are using SketchUp or other products, in fact. So I just skipped ahead 2 slides. Going through your SketchUp subscription, if you're not familiar with this screen here, if you ever need to see what you've got included, you can visit myaccount.trimble.com, and this will take you to your account management portal. Head over to My Products, and this will actually outline everything that's included within your subscription. This will have links to downloads for anything that you have got included in your subscription, links to learning content, tutorials, the ability to sign out of any installations you have, all kinds of stuff. So if you've never visited myaccount.trimble.com, it's a super, super useful link to be able to get to. And we're going to go through some of these products just now. Let's bring that one up again. Sorry, I have to flick in and out of desktop a few times and it kind of pings off. So included with your subscription, it's called SketchUp Pro for desktop, which I'm sure is the kind of core reason that you're using SketchUp. If you're not familiar with it, you've also got access to SketchUp for web, which is a slightly more sophisticated and fully functioned version of SketchUp free. And if you've not used it, it's got all the kind of main stuff in SketchUp that you will be familiar with. And it's actually at the moment constantly being developed, so it's getting closer and closer and closer to the desktop one. There's some really nice advantages to using SketchUp for web, which we'll show a couple of them, but the main one being that you don't need to install anything and we can access that anywhere simply by signing in. So SketchUp for web, you can access that via that account management portal or app.sketchup.com. Newish, launched last year, we launched SketchUp for iPad. This is actually included within a SketchUp subscription. If you have an iPad and you haven't tried SketchUp for iPad already, simply download it from the App Store and sign in with your subscription Trimble account, and that will actually unlock the SketchUp viewer into a fully functioning SketchUp editor. Very similar to SketchUp for web, but with some very unique iPad specific features, of course, a touchscreen interface, but support for things like the Apple Pencil. And what we can see actually going on here, I'm not sure if it's going to loop round again. SketchUp for iPad has a really nice mode called markup mode, which essentially allows you to draw directly onto your model, annotate it, make notes. It actually saves it into a scene inside of SketchUp. But I think as we show here, you can actually then project those into textures onto your model as well. So some really nice functions inside of SketchUp. This year, there's some additional functions that you'll be familiar with in the desktop one, which have also been added to the iPad one. We're not going to go through all of those because there's kind of too much to talk about, but take a look at SketchUp for iPad. Really great, actually. I wasn't sold on that at the start, but I've had a lot of time to play with it, and it's actually super great. One of the things that we can do with it beyond just modeling is we can actually place our models directly into the scene. So you'll have seen these kind of things already, but you'll be able to do it yourself with either things that you have placed inside your model, or perhaps even a whole building or a whole structure if you need to show somebody how that might look in situ. So we're going to have a look at something. We'll do a little demo of this one, actually. So this is going to be particularly useful for people who are probably working in architecture or construction. So there's a function, a web service included with SketchUp called pre-design, which there's a couple of different ways we can get to this, and we'll take a look at this in a second. And pre-design is a sort of climate insight and site insight tool. So it's going to give us some information about the location where you may be planning to build or design around, and hopefully give you some kind of broad insights into some of the things that you might want to be considering. There's some really, really great stuff that you can get to on here. And let me just open it. There's a few different ways you can access it. You can access it directly inside of SketchUp via the file menu, and we do pre-design, or you can visit predesign.sketchup.com because it's a web service. So broadly the way that this looks, and I would really suggest you have a good look at it. We have some built-in tutorials. Click here, do guides. That will take you on some walkthrough guides as to how to use it. I'm just going to show you broadly how it works. I'm just going to make a new project I'm going to call London HQ. I'm going to say this type of project is an office project. Let's get rid of that one. I'm going to set its location because I'm feeling super lazy. It's just going to be generically London, and I'm going to click continue. It's going to set some schedules for when that building is going to be used. And basically it's going to bring up some information about that site, about that location. And it's just populating that report right now. And what we'll see here is some really great graphical information when it loads. was really keen just to show this live, because I think it's one thing showing an animated GIF. I think it's another thing be able to show the actual thing working correctly. Definitely go have a look at it if you're an architect. I think you'll find this super useful. We can pull up sun diagrams for the location. We can pull up information about seasonal variance. Of course, in the UK, you might not assume that it's varies quite so much, but perhaps you're working in other parts of the UK or all over the world. We can bring up information about the predominant wind direction, precipitation, daylight hours, all kinds of stuff. And this is useful to be able to, I guess, perhaps show a client, maybe explain to them why we're starting to make some of the decisions very, very early on that we're making. There's some really amazing stuff here about sun overheating, the effect of the sun on different facades, and it will give you some advice about perhaps the effectiveness of certain glazing and shading solutions on different sides of the structure. So have a look through that. It's interactive, but some really great graphics there to help you get some insights into what you're working on. So I'm just going to close that. You can even download a little PDF report that has everything in it. Let's head back to my slides. Slides, come back, please. There we go. Yes, so yeah, there we are. Predesigned.sketchup.com. Really great. So we're going to move on to something else in just a second. We're going to talk about Trimble Connect, which is, again, another kind of key component of a SketchUp subscription now, and kind of the glue that binds together various different packages. But I just realized I wanted to ask some actual serious questions about kind of the industries that people are working in, because I probably should have thought about this and tune my language accordingly. But if you could just let us know kind of what kind of segment or industry that you work in, or who you're working with, that'd be really great. So this is, there we go, we've got some other ones. Thank you. Submarine telecoms, architecture, event and production. Yes, I only had 10 slots to be able to put on this. So thank you. It's really good. Events, yes, of course, events, garden design, yes, brilliant. Interior design, yeah. So thank you. Real mixture of people, as you might expect with SketchUp. If you want to have a look, this is who we've got on today. So lots of architects, lots of interior designers, a whole bunch of people working construction, landscape architecture. And then I didn't want to put them all into other, because there's a lot of other industries using it, but people in heritage and retail design and theatre design, set design. Brilliant. Thank you for doing that for me. Okay. So I'm going to have a little look at something here called Trimble Connect, which has been included in this subscription for a little while. But I know normally when it's sort of pitched and shown, it's kind of shown from a quite large sort of enterprise perspective, and that's maybe not applicable to everybody. But I kind of wanted to give you an overview of what Trimble Connect is, how it works alongside SketchUp and some of the other products, and maybe how you can use it, I think is the important thing here. I've got weird delays on everything. So Trimble Connect is Trimble's collaboration and sort of file sharing platform, and it's woven right into SketchUp now, whether it's a desktop version, the iPad version, or the web version, and this provides some really useful functions. If you're not familiar with using it at all, we can head straight into the web interface. Today's news, honestly, I am live. Brilliant. And it is connect.trimble.com. I'm just going to sign in. So Trimble Connect is a cloud storage platform. I'm going to come into this one. How we kind of get started, I guess, if you've not used it. We generally break up our Trimble Connect kind of areas into projects. So my project this week has been a demo for Trimble Connect. So I've got a project called Trimble Connect Demo. And inside of my projects, I have got all of my files associated with my project. So You may already be doing this, but you may be doing this in some folders somewhere on your computer. So here are my folders of different projects I'm working on, different bits and pieces, SketchUp files, IFC files, Revit files, PDFs, photos, DWGs, all the normal stuff that you tend to be using. Yeah, I've lost my window. Where's it gone? So here we go. So Trimble Connect, there's a few different ways we can do this. We can actually create a project and drag and drop our files directly into the web service, or as I do, if we visit Trimble Connect and come up to apps, we can download an app called Trimble Connect Sync. And this is available for Windows and for Mac, and this will basically automatically sync up your local project files with the cloud project files. And Trimble Connect has massive accreditations and meets various ISO standards, such even if you're working in a very large organization, you'll find that that will probably hit all of the security policies and things that you need to on the head. So let's come back to where we were. So this is what you might see to begin with. So this is synchronizing with my local computer. Every time I save a file in SketchUp or update a PDF or add another photograph or make a change for DWG, that Trimble Connect Sync app will actually push that change into my cloud storage. I've chosen to put my cloud storage in a European server. Again, you have the control over where in the world it's stored. So some very basic stuff that we can do inside of Trimble Connect. Perhaps I have got a DWG file and I don't have a viewer to hand, but I can click on it and I can see that DWG file. But it is white on a white background right this second, which isn't very helpful. Let me try something else. Dear, right. Millions of windows open already. Let's look at a 3D model. Right, so we've got a Revit file here, actually. Let's open this one. I'm just hoping my computer hasn't had some kind of freak out. There we go. So we've got a Revit file that we've actually loaded into Trimble Connect, and we can look at it, we can view it, we can remove sides, we can do all kinds of viewing type things. If you just need to get a quick glance at it, but perhaps you want to share one of these files with a colleague. So for example, I'm going to share my central landscaping SKP file, and I can basically choose to share this with a team member who's in part of my project. So maybe I'm working in the office with a handful of other people. You can invite those into your project and they will have access to whatever you give them access to. You can actually directly send them a file from the cloud. You could send the file to somebody else who isn't part of your project, but send it to my colleague there. I can set when that link will expire and how long they're able to look at it for. And I can choose whether can they only look at it inside the web browser or can they actually download it and make changes to it also. And so you have some control over it there. Third option, nuclear option, is you can send a link to the file that anybody who has the link can access. I just had a question come up here. And that is there a storage allocation with Trimble Connect? If you have a SketchUp Pro or SketchUp Studio subscription, you actually have unlimited storage. So yeah, I mean, I imagine there is some limit somewhere, but unlimited is what it says. So we can actually send a share link so much as you might do from WeTransfer or Dropbox or Google Drive, but you can do this inside of Trimble Connect. And of course, it means you can view that file. We obviously can't really handle 3D and design documents a lot of the time inside of here, inside of Google or Dropbox or whatever. So we can share files. So that's a really useful thing to be able to do. There's a couple of different ways we can do it. We can actually edit our files directly from Trimble Connect. So if we're in the web service, we can actually ask it to edit it, and this will edit inside of SketchUp for Web. So if it's a very quick change you want to make, we can make our changes here. And what's really neat about, I'm going to make a really tiny change somewhere because I don't want to ruin other parts of things later on. Just going to make that. If I hit save, that's automatically going to save that file back to Trimble Connect. And what is also super great about how this works is every single time I make a save, either on my computer or online, can I look at this one actually? It creates a history, a total file history. So I can actually go back to any point in time when my file was saved, and I can actually download that file at that point in time. Now, I'm the only one here that's been editing this file, but if my colleagues have also been interacting with the file, have made changes, made saves, you will also see their saves, and you'll be able to, again, download those or essentially revert back to them. So from a backup and a file history point of view, or a collaboration point of view, some really, really super useful functions. A couple of questions there. Show a DWG file. So if it's a DWG file, bonus points. Trimble Connect actually has a fully formed, maybe that's not the right phrase to use, DWG editor built into it. So if you don't have access to AutoCAD or don't have access to it where you are, you can actually make changes and edits to your DWG directly inside of the web browser and save it. And if I did do that, what can I do? I've hit edit. I'm not an AutoCAD type person. I'm going to fumble around looking for some simple shape. Let's just draw a line, do that. There we go. I'm going to click save. That will populate back to our original file, but it will also see it appear in our file history. Here it is. So we've got kind of basic file management. Doesn't overwrite anything. It always keeps a history of everything going here. And so some other questions there. You can't work on exactly the same file at the same time, because every time somebody saves, it will obviously create a new one. But there's some really nice functions to be able to, for example, check out a file. So if you know that you are the only one that should be working on a file, you can actually check the file out. That will prevent anybody else from being able to access it for a period of time. So some really sensible tools for working with multiple people. Now, where it becomes really useful as well is actually if we look at, let's look at one of these 3D objects in the viewer. I can actually load in every single file that is being used inside of my model at any given time. So let's just load it. I am really stressing out my internet connection, I think, and my web browser. Give us a second. Lots and lots of tabs open when you're demoing, not the best of ideas. Right, let's try this again. Where are we? Let's try opening one. Bear with me a moment. I think I'm having some computer issues. It's quite intensive having to stream 2 screens to multiple places. I've got some noise cancelling stuff going on that's interfering. And of course, when I was checking all of this, just merely half an hour ago, everything was happy until we've gone live. Give this one. Oh, okay, I've got one here that seems to be open. Yes, okay, right. So I've actually loaded in everything inside of my project. So I've got a fairly large scale project here constructed from DWGs. We've got a SketchUp file that is for our landscaping. We've got some additional geometry for some of our context, and that's in SketchUp file, SketchUp format. At this point, we've got some IFC content which I can load in on top of it. So Trimble Connect is pretty kind of agnostic towards lots of different file formats that you use. I'm going to load these all in. There's some Revit files. There's all sorts of stuff, and this is a complete project for a whole block, for a whole building. And we can cohabit. Cohabit's not all the word I want. We can place all of these files into this centralized space. Even if you're not a designer or an editor, perhaps you're managing the project or a studio manager or something like that, you can actually be there, being able to see all of these changes coming through live. So here we go, I've got somebody's made an update to one of the files, and I can actually request that it populates that into this shared space. So Trimble Connect, super great for all of that stuff. And I'm going to crash my web browser once more. So I'm going to stop the Trimble Connect stuff there. I would really advise you to have a look. I'll show you a couple other ways that you can access it. I think yeah, there we go. I'm full and crashing now. The ways that it kind of interacts with SketchUp directly, if I just jump back into one last thing. So I just realized I did need to show you something there. So this is all happening inside the web browser. But there is also a desktop client. So if you need to work a little bit more offline, you can use Trimble Connect for Windows, which is a very similar interface, but is a standalone software that can interact both directly with your local files, but also the cloud ones. Perhaps I've got a file here. Let's have a look and zoom in too far because, sorry, this is pretty tragic right now. Right, we've got some geometry. There's something that I need a colleague to take a look at with my project. I can actually annotate. Maybe there's something wrong with this corner. I could take some measurements for whatever it is. I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm going to actually create a to-do list for my colleague Kyle and say, can you take a look at this corner? Something should be there. Please add railings. There we go. You forgot to add them. And can you please add that to the model by 7th of July? And allocate that to one of my colleagues, Kyle. I'm going to say it's a comment or it's an issue. And I'm going to say what the issue is. And what that'll do is that'll create a little to-do list embedded into this project. So if I end up going, let's have a look, let's jump into SketchUp. And I'm going to actually open a file directly from Trimble Connect inside of SketchUp. I'm going to open my model here. And I'm going to jump into that project because I want to work on it inside on my desktop version. And that particular file that I was working on there was called context. Open that one. Got that model there, and I can make edits, save it, publish it back, and it will reflect. But what I'm interested in here is I've issued to my colleague a request to do something, and I can actually see what that request was, which was here. It's got a little thumbnail. In fact, if I click on the thumbnail, it will take me to the area that I maybe need to pay some additional attention to. So you can create those to-do lists that are very visual and also map exactly the physical location in 3D space to the model itself. And perhaps I'm not going to add some railings, but perhaps I've made an addition to this model. I can publish that back to Trimble Connect or save it to my local project file if that's the way in which you're working, and that will become that change will be reflected across the wider project. So sorry, I'm talking quieter as I need to have a drink of water. Cool, thank you. That's that one. I just said thank you to a glass of water, but thank you for bearing with me also. So I'm just going to have a look at some questions there. I'm going to also just throw up another poll onto the screen whilst I just sort something else out. So we look after people in the UK and Ireland, but it'd be good to know where you are. And right. So I'm just Windows wrangling again. Okay. Don't sign in. Oh my goodness, I've lost all of my polls. No. There we go. Thank you. So again, a mixture of people, as you might expect. England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, Ireland. Brilliant. Okay, thank you. Right, hard distraction there for myself. So yes, Trimble Connect, super, super useful as a file sharing tool, as a project backup tool, as a collaboration tool. I think most people probably find some value in it there. One of the ways that I actually use it personally is as a kind of permanent repository for certain types of components that I use regularly. And again, you can imagine this if perhaps you're working on working as part of a team, perhaps you've got particular fixtures or fittings or materials that you need to use. And again, perhaps these are in different formats. I've got a few chairs, I think, that are in DWG format that I grabbed from the Hay website. Basically, I can import from my Trimble Connect storage materials and assets that I've chosen to store there. And again, those will come complete with their own file history. So if you've made any revisions to those or changed them, or a colleague has, you can see them there. So that's like an alternative way to kind of managing your component libraries by storing those inside of Trimble Connect. If you've actually got them as SketchUp files, you can of course link your SketchUp directly to that folder in a different way. But Trimble Connect will let you sort of manage and work with different file types, which is in itself quite useful. Anyway, let's go back. Every time I pop out of that, that goes. So yes, brilliant. Didn't show it, but there's also a basic visualizer built into Trimble Connect desktop client as well. So sometimes if you need to just pull up something that looks a little bit better than SketchUp or what we were seeing there, you've got a little bit of control over that too. So another little hidden bonus that is inside your SketchUp subscription. So these are all kind of things I'm sure many of you are familiar with. 3D Warehouse, of course, included with your subscription. Extension Warehouse, another thing that is maintained and kept running for subscription users too. If you've never visited these, 3D Warehouse is the world's largest 3D model repository to populate your models of things. Extension Warehouse allows you to add additional functionality into SketchUp that developers have produced. So perhaps you're used to using another piece of software and you wish SketchUp did something. You can quite often go and find a tool to do it. So for example, there's a popular one called Scatter, and that's a tool that allows you to scatter, for example, trees randomly across a large surface, saving you having to place them manually. So how are we doing for time? Thank you, brilliant. This is one of the kind of core components of SketchUp that a lot of people use, but a lot of people don't use it. If you're not familiar with it, Layout is our 2D tool for SketchUp. So you, with SketchUp, it is a 3D tool. You work in 3D, you build a 3D model, but of course you need to present those quite often in a 2D way. So there's just this little looping GIF here showing somebody placing multiple viewports of SketchUp and then starting to annotate and dimension the model. The really great thing about creating your construction documents in this way is that once you've placed and set up your paper page on your screen, if you end up having to go back to your SketchUp model and make a change, you'll see those changes immediately propagate back through your document, and where it can do, we'll even try and keep dimensions and other things in place as well and adjust those to match any changes you may have made. So Layout, super, super useful. A big tool in itself, and lots to learn with that. It's just as fully functional as a SketchUp desktop is itself. So I'm just going to have a look at the questions now, see where we are, if there's anything we couldn't answer as we go along. I think some of my colleagues are grabbing these questions as we go along, but we'll come back to any that we couldn't answer. So those are the kind of core features of a SketchUp Pro subscription. And hopefully you've seen a few other bits you maybe weren't so aware of there. Hopefully Trimble Connect, I think that's the big thing I'd maybe like you to take away from today. We're going to have a look at some of the other bits that are part of the SketchUp Studio subscription. And these are a little bit more specialized. So we've got, show you how these work. Click next and nothing's happened. Thank you. Skipped ahead 3 slides. So part of SketchUp Studio is an additional plugin called Scan Essentials, and this is a plugin that allows us to work with point clouds. And these point clouds we can obviously bring in from a sort of professional grade LiDAR scanner, or actually, as we're now seeing users do, we have consumer products now that are able to actually take point clouds. So if you have an iPhone 12 or newer, or an iPad Pro, you can actually take point cloud scans on those devices and save those as a kind of a default, a generic standard, which we can actually open inside of Scan Essentials. The point cloud was just on the screen for a moment then. That's that very dotty representation of 3D space. So if you're not familiar with how that works, there it is. Basically, our device shoots out beams of light and actually calculates how long that beam of light takes to hit the object and come back to the camera, and then it records the color and the distance of that point in space. And by doing this millions and millions and millions of times, we can actually construct a loose cloud of droplets of data that we can actually view in 3D space. Now, what's really great about using it inside of SketchUp is we can actually bring those into our model as a visual reference, and we can actually start to model over it. So rather than taking references from photographs, we can actually take a scan. And this has lots of really useful benefits now. Is that it's very, very accurate. Those laser scanners, particularly the professional ones, are super accurate. We can do that from ground standing stations. We can do it from drones. We can do it from little robot dogs that walk around and do it for us. And of course, that means you can take a scan and you never need to go back again. So super useful if you're not wanting to keep returning to site. Super useful if you don't want to go somewhere dangerous. Like up there, you want to take a measurement. You pull out the tape measure tool in SketchUp and we can measure the distance between any 2 of the points that make up part of that component. You can also bring a point cloud into Scan Essentials and you can start to dimension it and use that as a visual reference in your documentation as well. So Scan Essentials, really great. Just checking I'm all good. Yeah. And we can also use this information to make sure that any perhaps new additions to the building aren't aren't clashing with things that actually exist in the building already. So lots of really great uses for point clouds now, and SketchUp and Scan Essentials makes that quite accessible and quite simple to use, because previously it was quite complex. So I've got 2 slides back to front. Included with your SketchUp Studio subscription, we actually have V-Ray 6 for Studio, for SketchUp included as well. And if you're not familiar with V-Ray, V-Ray is a really, really mature, well-developed, well-supported, well-liked offline renderer. So we can use that to create kind of photorealistic images or even animations and videos as well. So V-Ray 6, if you're not familiar with it, it's got a couple of really amazing features that are new to it, which are part of this subscription, included with the version that you get. Light Mix, which basically allows us to take one render of an image, and it actually records all of the information about the lights and the light sources and allows us to basically turn them off after the fact. So we render once and then we can actually remove, for example, remove the contribution that the sun made in terms of lighting to our model and make it nighttime. or increase the intensity of a particular light fitting, or change the color of it. And this gives us a lot of flexibility to not have to render our image repeatedly to achieve the look that we want to achieve. V-Ray also comes with something called Chaos Cosmos, which is, I guess, V-Ray's kind of Chaos Group's equivalent of the 3D warehouse. So this is, I think they have about 3,000 models currently, sort of render ready, high quality props, whether it's plants or people or cars or other buildings or pots and pans for interior scenes, these kind of things. So we can just drop those straight into our model and actually get, you know, really incredible results very, very quickly. I think V-Ray always had a reputation for being a little bit hard to use, but they've really, really worked hard to make sure that is simpler. I've got a slide there for SketchUp Viewer, which is actually not a SketchUp Studio specific function. That is part of SketchUp for iPad. So ignore that. Okay, so I'm just going to check the questions again. How are we doing for time? Yeah, we are approaching the end, or my time limits, I think. I think we've got a bit more time, but I don't want to keep you all too long. Just check the questions there. So just some questions there about Scan Essentials. Can the software be used on a Samsung phone? I don't know about the specifics of what hardware those Samsung phones have, but if there is a Samsung phone that has LiDAR scanning capability, I'm sure there'll be an app that allows you to save it to a format that can work with it. But we certainly know that the Apple ones do have that function. Somebody asking about Trimble Connect. From previous, if we only have one SketchUp license, can my colleagues access the files in Connect? Yes, your SketchUp subscription gives you access to a Trimble Connect business account, and you become like I guess the main person inside of that project. And I think you can invite up to 1,000 participants as guests into that project. So yes, easily get your colleagues in there unless you've got more than 1,000. So that's a kind of overview of the stuff that was that's in SketchUp and has been there for a year or so, a couple of years, depending on when you got it. There's some new bits in SketchUp 2023, which launched a few weeks ago. If you've got a subscription, you can download that straight away. In fact, a new update for that came out this morning. So if you just check check for updates on SketchUp, you should see that those updates for the new versions come through. But just a few useful bits here that you may or may not know about that are new in SketchUp 2023. Some really big ones. Nice to have. There's now a common installer on Windows. So SketchUp Studio is currently a Windows-only product, so Scan Essentials and the Revit importer only function on the Windows version of SketchUp currently. And the new common installer will basically, if you have a SketchUp subscription, or a SketchUp Pro subscription or a SketchUp Studio subscription, you can choose to install those at the point of installation. And on a note, actually, if you don't have a SketchUp Studio subscription and you would like to have a look at Scan Essentials or the Revit importer, when you try to import a file, which I will show you in a moment, it will actually ask if you'd like to start a trial. You can also upgrade to a SketchUp Studio from SketchUp Pro if you already have a subscription, and all the pricing gets calculated for you so you don't lose out in any way, which is great. So one of the really big sort of headline functions for SketchUp 2023 Studio is the new Revit importer. And this has been developed over the last few years because what we know is SketchUp is used in lots and lots of different places along the design journey by lots of different types of people. We also know Revit is used super ubiquitously too. So actually, how can we make these products work better together? Now, the Revit importer, again, I've got some slides, but I'm going to just quickly show you actually that work, if it works today, because I'm now worried that nothing's working live for me. But the Revit importer is really nice. It's native inside of SketchUp as part of the Studio subscription. You don't need to have a Revit license or an AutoCAD license for this to work. It will just happen inside of SketchUp Studio. It's designed for SketchUp, so some really smart decisions are made to make sure that those files are kind of created in the right way, and the files look really great as well. And it brings through all the data that we can. Let's just bring up an example of this and get really spicy and see if it breaks, because my computer is not happy today. We're in my webinar. There we go. There we go. Let's open that one there. So this is just my sample file ready to go. And whilst that is going, also just going to ask another question as well. I know I probably should have asked this before. I talked about collaboration, but what kind of spread of people have we got? Have we got people from practice or from studios, or are you working by yourself? Thank you for all your questions, by the way. Although I'm not answering lots of them here, there's 3 people on my team, my colleagues, who are answering these questions in the background. If there's any that we can't get to here, we'll come back to you afterwards. Thank you. So there we go. Again, spread, share the results of you there. So again, lots of individuals and lots of people from larger businesses too. Fantastic. So hopefully you'll have all seen a spread of sort of bits and pieces that might be useful to you. So this is going to be something that's of interest to people, I suppose, working in architecture practices, or perhaps visualizers, or again, people working with architects or whatever. But we can basically now, inside of SketchUp, this is a SketchUp, regular SketchUp file, we can actually import a Revit file. So I'm going to come to my import menu, and because I am still feeling a little bit like I'm going to make things hard for myself, but I want to, I want a good demo. I've got a tiny file and I've got a big file. I'm not going to do the big one. So this is actually a full Revit sample project, actually, from the Autodesk website. And basically what SketchUp is going to do here, the Revit importer, is going to try and interpret that file, and it does it based on what's visible in the starting view of that particular project. So I only have to talk for a little bit because I think this gets to 66 and then it will be imported. But yeah, there's some really smart decisions here being made because essentially Revit's geometry it's parametric, and it is an entirely different kind of language of 3D. Oh, it's gone past 66. That's slightly concerning. It's an entirely different language of 3D geometry to what SketchUp uses. So the importer is trying to interpret that in a way that means that the model looks the way that it should look. Retains the data that we would hopefully like to have, and performs well inside of SketchUp as well. So this is, again, a full sample project. This is everything, exterior, interior, everything. It's probably easier just to show you. You can see kind of everything that's going on inside this model. So big one here. And if I jump into my tags, we can see that it's pulled through different pieces of information in regards to how that model was originally constructed inside of Revit. And this will make it easier for us to organize or change or make amendments or adjustments that we might want to make, either for visualization or just because we need to, again, do some kind of sketching inside of SketchUp and see how that might look. So Revit importer, it does exactly what it's meant to do. And hopefully that was I'm concerned now that I've been showing that poll on the screen for ages and you haven't seen anything that I've done. That's good. I'm hoping one of my team did see that, if that was the case, and lets me panic. In case that did just do what I've thinking might have just done. I've just imported a Revit file and it's here. And we can operate on that in our normal SketchUp way. So the Revit importer, really great. And I think we talked briefly about V-Ray earlier actually as well. I mentioned that it's included with the SketchUp Studio subscription. As we're here, and I've set up a view for it already, I'll just show you how we can work really quickly now with V-Ray. So it's been really streamlined. One of the functions in V-Ray that's really nice is something called Light Gen. And what this will do is it will, better, bring up a little dialogue for me. There we go. We can basically say, are we doing an interior rendering or are we doing an exterior rendering? I'm going to do an interior, and basically I can press a couple of buttons and it's going to generate a selection of sort of lighting scenarios for an interior. I don't know how well this is going to work live. There we go. It's just going to render little preview thumbnails, and because I have tested this before, it should be number 4 that I'm going to choose, which is that one. I'm going to stop it. Now I've applied that little preview to my model. If I click render, it's just going to run some calculations across my model. And what we should get now is a more, I would say, a more than serviceable render of this perspective in V-Ray. Just with 2 clicks, 3 clicks, didn't do a great deal there. I tried to be dead honest with this and actually not pre-prepare any of the model or change anything. The only thing I pre-prepared is I framed this one view, but we've not set any lighting, we've not made any changes inside of V-Ray, just gone ahead with it. So this is actually pulled straight through, as we saw, from a Revit file into SketchUp, and then we've chosen to start rendering some images inside of SketchUp. And there are plenty of reasons that people choose to use SketchUp for their rendering over their other modeling packages, because there's quite a lot of bits that are a bit tricky to do in Revit or ArchiCAD or whatever. So yeah, Revit importer, really easy, really valuable, and we can see that's an addition that's really changed and sped people up really significantly since it launched. So yeah, there we are. So approaching an hour. I think we have got like another half an hour on the books schedule, but I think we're kind of approaching the end now. Just some other little functions that have come new into SketchUp 2023. There's a new tool on your toolbar called the Flip tool that when you click it brings a graphical representation of the planes and the axes that you are going to be flipping across. So it makes it a lot easier to know whether you're flipping in a particular direction, which is, again, really nice little incremental addition. This is how software is made now, incremental improvements all the time. SketchUp, it has had some performance improvements in SketchUp 2023. The one that is here is a multi-threaded saving. So you may be aware that if you're working on very large projects, sometimes take a long time to save. The saving process has been optimized to take advantage of modern processors, so it can save quite significantly quicker than it could before. There's some other undocumented performance improvements. SketchUp 2023 performs, for me, significantly better than even last year's version. Even in very large projects, I'm seeing sort of double the frame rate, the actual moving around the model being twice as smooth as it has been previously. And we've seen that kind of improvement, that uplift across Windows and Mac. So again, things getting better all the time. New functions in 2023, you've got the option now to bring DWG references directly into layout, just as we can do inside of SketchUp itself. And then, of course, you can relink those files, update those files from, I guess, from Trimble Connect or from another colleague without having to rearrange stuff or change your layers. So Layouts had a whole bunch of additional changes. We're not going to go through all of those, but again, if you're a layout user, you'll see some little updates and tweaks and improvements in terms of how you rotate and how you can style things. SketchUp for iPad just launched version 6.2, and that's got a whole load of additional things, support for the new Apple Pencil. It previously supported the previous two, but the new one has the ability to hover, so you can actually be using the iPad above the screen itself, so it knows when you're actually touching the screen and when you're not touching the screen, and there's some functions that come into how natural it feels to use. You've got the option for customizable shortcut toolbars, the flip tools there. You've now got tag folders, the same as you have in the desktop. The solid tools, which are a core component of the desktop, are there, and you've got dark mode on the iPad as well for keeping your eyes relaxed. And then I think just other bits for you to look at if you'd like to. You might not know about these, but we've got SketchUp Labs, which is the part of SketchUp where we can see some of the experimental products that are being worked on. So this Trimble Creator is the technology that powers the live components inside of SketchUp, which are the interactive configurable components that exist. You might have seen some of the windows or the bifold doors and stuff that allow you to adjust the size. And this is actually the interface that allows you to create your own parametric geometry now. So if you have maybe ever investigated things like Houdini or Rhino or geometry nodes in Blender, we're actually able to create parametric 3D geometry now, and this means that we can create adjustable, customizable geometry. This will be useful for people that are wanting to create kind of either mathematically complex geometry, or perhaps you are a furniture maker or a product manufacturer and you want to provide configurable components to either your design teams or to consumers to actually use inside the 3D warehouse. So you can access this via creator.trimble.com. Some really great tutorials to get you started. Just up here, it tells you how to use it. And sorry, that's throwing me off. It's not meant to be popping up in the corner of the screen. Team, please don't message me on chat, please. The other one we want to look at, coming soon to SketchUp, it will be a new version of 3D Warehouse, which is currently available in web browser. But if you'd like to have a look at the new 3D Warehouse, you can visit that. It's labs-3dwarehouse.sketchup.com. This is one of the things that old versions of SketchUp have made way for now, because we've now got more modern browsers in SketchUp 2023 and 2022. It means we can use more modern browser features for 3D Warehouse. The 3D Warehouse, obviously, of course, you go away and search the models you want, but the new Labs version, which will become the main version at some point, has a much more powerful search, and there's lots of really cool search functions that are coming along. So if you've ever used 3D Warehouse, you might be familiar with how searching for an object often doesn't really find you anything you want to find. The search actually is been totally overhauled, so it kind of behaves a bit more like it would do on Google or an actual search engine. So not just looking at the title of the model, but looking at the description, looking at who has used those models, who has added a certain chair to a collection of mid-century furniture, and making smart decisions about what that object is. And there's also some clever image stuff that'll be coming soon, where you might be able to take a picture of a piece of furniture, for example, and find something similar from the 3D Warehouse. So some cool stuff that you will see on here, which you can access. And of course, we can just download those, pull those through into SketchUp in a slightly different way. So those are a couple of the kind of preview bits from SketchUp Labs, which you can have a look at straight away. That slide's in the wrong place. There we go. So I think I've come to the end of this kind of walkthrough. I'm really hoping that you've seen some things there that you didn't know that you had, and maybe you'll eyes have been open to some of the things that you maybe have the potential to work with or do straight away, or perhaps in the future on future projects. Really appreciate you joining us today. I'm going to just throw up the option there for anybody else who does need to ask questions. I'm just going to have a read through the ones we've got there that haven't been answered. Bear with me a moment, it's people talking there. Oh, thank you. You've all been answering each other's questions as well, which is really nice. So we answered that one, that was answered. So I think somebody there just talking about point clouds, saying how they've sort of investigated point clouds and seen that perhaps it was something they feel was maybe only really suited for restoration or heritage projects. We see these now being used in brand new constructions on quite large sites. So it's becoming increasingly common for new builds, whether it's for that kind of survey point of view, or whether it's actually to compare the 3D model that existed inside of SketchUp or Revit or whatever, and actually taking the scan of the building after it was completed and actually using that as a reference to essentially cross-check that original digital file versus what exists in reality. We see that being used quite a lot as well. So it's not just for old stuff. Simon's asking what scan app was used on the iPhone. There's a whole bunch of different ones. If you type onto the App Store LiDAR scanner, for example, that will bring up a few. The one that I really like, which is a free one, if you want to give it a go, I'm just looking it up on my phone, is, I think it might just be called 3D. Yeah, it's called 3D Scanner app. And you need a LiDAR capable iPhone for that to work. There's another really great one called Polycam as well, which actually will also try and create some 3D geometry of walls and stuff as well, which you can also import into SketchUp, which is another way to do it. Somebody asking there about the Revit model. If we've imported that into SketchUp, can we save it? Yeah, of course. Once it's in SketchUp, we can save it out as a SketchUp file. So if you need to then share that with your colleagues who don't have the importer, of course, you can save that file and share it. Can you import IFC files? Yes, SketchUp has native support for IFC files. So you can import those, I think 2x3, I think it was 2x3, 2x3, 2x3 you can import, and I think you can import IFC4 as well. And I think you can export both of those as well, or at least one of those. So yes, there's great IFC support in SketchUp too. Can new version of SketchUp? Yes. So can new version of SketchUp sit alongside older versions, or does it overwrite the original? It sits alongside of it. So if you're still working on things or with colleagues in 2022, you can install 2023 and they sit there. If you have a SketchUp subscription, you can have 3 versions of SketchUp installed at any given time on the same machine, a work laptop, work desktop, or it could be 3 versions of SketchUp. So it could be 2021, 2022, 2023. These are mostly the questions that are appropriate to answer right now. So brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody who's joined us. This was recorded, so if you did want to go back and see some of those demos or fast forward over the bits that didn't work, the web recording should become available to you when we send a follow-up email. I think actually even once you've left the webinar, I think if you try to join it again, it may even offer you the recording there. So thank you again so much for joining us. And if you have any questions, feel free to reply to the invite that we sent you. I think that will come through to one of my colleagues, or if you want to contact me directly, you can contact me on my email address just there. Have a fantastic rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Goodbye from the Elmtec team, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.